In today's video, we're going to be stamping and coloring images on pattern paper. Hi, I'm Stacy and welcome to my channel. I hope that you enjoy and feel inspired to create. Let's get started. We're going to use this little stamp right here from Sweet Miss Daisy Designs. This is Anna Wight's shop. She illustrates and designs these stamps. And what I've got here is some old paper I had in my stash. You can use whatever paper you want. Just keep in mind that any pattern that's on it is going to peek through. So I wanted something that was fairly neutral but had texture. There's some butterflies down there in the corner that I wanted to get into the image, and I wanted to make sure the cat and the flowers, everything matched up to where the colors that I were going to use was still going to be true to those colors and be dark enough to cover the pattern in the background. This allows you not to have to fussy cut or use dyes. It also has this background that's completely created for you without the need of inks or other stamping, so you can just stamp your image down and color it. And I'm just fiddling around with the placement of everything right now. So with the little bees and the little bee trail. And you'll see me take my hand over the stamps, and when stamps are brand new, there is a residue that's left on them from the manufacturing. I just use my fingers to wipe it off of there. And then I flip the card panel down to the bottom so that I could stamp the little bee trail down there, but I left them in my MISTI in case I wanted to come back and re-stamp them. Just make sure your cardstock is butted up to the corner so that you can reposition it back there and you don't get a double line or blurred image. And then we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm coloring with some e-markers today, so I wanted this kitty to appear like an orangish brown. I don't know if it looks truly orange, but it's got some orange undertones. I could have went in with an orange marker to get that effect, or just use different colors as well. Keep in mind that when you're coloring on any pattern paper, that it is not, especially if it's not what you're used to using. So like I use Nina Solar White 80-pound marker or pound cardstock, and I use the Copic Express blending cardstock as well. And this reacts completely different. So I went in with a slow hand and a very light touch. So I didn't get real close to the lines because this paper is really thin, and that alcohol ink in the markers just wants to spread. It wants to spread out, and I don't want it to go outside the lines. So I'm keeping my nib away from the very edge and just allowing the ink to work its way there. It's pretty slight, but if you heavily saturate the paper, it just keeps spreading. It doesn't hold the layers and layers of ink like your other cardstock does that's designed for alcohol markers. And also keep in mind that as you color, it's typically on pattern paper because it's got different colors and it's darker. It's a darker base. It's a shaded base. Your colors are going to look much darker than what they will when they dry. So you can always color on a scratch piece of paper to make sure that you're going to like the way the colors dry and come out on top of your pattern paper. And I'm just working from, originally I was doing darkest to lightest, and then I switch up from lightest to darkest because I noticed that this paper, when I went back in with my lightest colors, you could see the marker streaks in it from the lighter colors because there's less pigment, therefore it lifts it. And it may have dried back smooth, but it just was easier in the end not to have to worry about that and go back in and work and blend that out, especially because the paper isn't holding as much ink. This one's very thin. You get a thicker pattern paper in the background, it'll probably work much better. A matter of fact, I know it does because I've done it before. But if you have pattern paper that's coated, I'm not sure if it'll work. I mean, get it out and give it a try. And then I'm just going in and these images have very small areas, so it's not a large blank image where you get to go in and add all kinds of different shading with lots of different colors. So I think the leaves I kept down to 3 colors, but really it's 2, and then the third color is just to touch up the center of the line in the leaves themselves. Have you guys got your hands on some Anna stamps? I know they're very popular. A lot of people like them, and I can see why. If you have, let me know which ones you've got, if you've used them yet. I mean, I just got mine the other day, and I've used nearly every set. Not quite yet. I think I picked up 5 sets, and I've used 2 of the main images, and then some of the smaller images, and then at the accessories one, I used quite a bit of those in my other card from yesterday. These little cone flowers, I decided to do a purple color because I thought that color would look good with the orangish brown. Even though it's more of a neutral, I thought about going in with some pinks, but I was thinking of the background too. There's blue behind these flowers, and pink probably would have mixed with that well. It may have covered it up because it's so faint, and create a little bit of natural purple shading from the paper, and maybe I'll try this again. But I went ahead and went with purple because I knew it would cover up that blue for the most part. The parts where the paper will shine through, that's a whole different look. So how bold you go with your pattern in the background. If you want something that's going to pop through your image, because that's a neat look too, just go with something a little bit bolder, a little bit darker and more saturated in the colors. This was more of like a wash, and then it had some butterflies down on the bottom that were kind of a light gray or charcoal color, and they fade off, and I wanted those down there just because it gives more texture and movement to the card and interest. Then I'm just going in with my second darkest, I think these are V's and BB's markers. I think they're V's, and I'm just kind of following where she has that stitch line in the petals, and I don't want the darkest to go all the way out to the edge right at that moment, so I'm just kind of working around, and sometimes there's petals overlapping other petals, and then what I do there is I actually put the shading right up against the side of the other petal because it would cast a shadow. But this is not in any way true realism. The shading isn't, right. If I was having like the center shade like I have in the cat, the shading on the flowers would have been completely different. But the whole point of this card is just to have some whimsy and to create. I hope that when you get your stamps out, you feel the freedom to play and not be pressured to have realism or super detailed coloring or shading or ink blending or whatever products you use. I hope that you just get them out and use them. And if you enjoy watching videos, I hope you find some value in this video and you enjoy it. Now I'm going to go in and color these bees, and I have some, I think these are Y markers or YR. You guys, I have this little tiny screen on my screen because it won't let me enlarge when I'm doing my voiceover, so I can't see the colors, and I could pull them out, but you'd hear a bunch of clanking in the background. So I think there's some Ys, and I believe I brought in a YR, but it could just be a Y that's more orange in color. And you can use colored pencils to do this. You could use, I don't know about watercolors because it's not watercolor paper. So, but I mean, you could give it a try. I don't think it would hold up though. It'd probably make the paper peel. You could use Sharpies. You could use even other alcohol markers. It doesn't have to be Copics. There's so many affordable options out there now, like Ohuhu. They have brush nibs, and I've used them. My friend has the set, or my brother, he has a huge set, and I was playing around with them, and they weren't bad at all. I probably, if I had those or experienced those prior, I probably wouldn't have spent the money on Copics. Although I love Copics. I mean, I'm a Copic girl through and through now, but there are a lot of other great alternatives out there. I really want to try the Olo markers because I do find the problem markers that I don't use all the time, and they'll be brand new. I open the lids and they're gummed up or dried out, and once that happens and it's to that point, you can't re-ink them. You can, and it'll work for maybe a couple of days, if that, and then it just does the same thing, because those are pigments in there that solidify, and technically you can't reactivate them. But you can soak them and get rid of it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not an expert. I'm just telling you my own experience. I'm going ahead and adding some ground in under this little kitty. I believe this is Gigi. I believe she said she was a barn cat, or she was a cat that she had at one time. And then I just added a pop of blue there. It's like BG's, a more tealish blue, but not completely teal. Not a light, like minty teal. And then I just colored the little charm on its collar gray, and then I just used the same blues for the heart. And then I decided I want to go in and touch up the bottom, the grass there. And I believe I worked that one side out a little bit further. What's the weather like where you guys are at? Is it springy? Here I'm going in with a colored pencil because I wanted those paws to appear white and the fur on the chest as well. Just keep in mind when you go into it with a colored pencil, if you don't want to restamp it or you don't have a stamp positioner, try not to color over your lines because the colored pencils are opaque. It will cover up those lines. And then I just cut that pattern paper out of a stitch rectangle die from Lawn Fawn. This cone flower my husband got me. I believe it's the version of the honeybee stamp. He ordered me a bunch of different dies on Amazon one year for Christmas, and he picked them out. He didn't know any better that it wasn't a honeybee, but I was going to use it. It's already here. But I encourage you to go over and use the products from the actual companies. I try to do that as much as possible, but if you do you. I mean, I do have some dies in my set that are probably knockoffs that my husband got me. But no judgment. You can only afford what you can afford, but a lot of these stamping companies are closing their doors because we can get them from Temu and Amazon and all these other places for so much cheaper and get knockoffs. So if it's in your budget, try to support the smaller companies so they keep putting product out. And I got a little bit of purple there on these. So I'm just blending with some Simon Says ink. And use whatever blending brushes you have. If you have sponges, you could even take the cardstock and just like dip it in there. But I got a little bit of purple from the flowers itself on the cone portion of the flower. And I believe purple is the complementary color to it. So it created kind of a brown anyway. So I went back in. And I just went with it because I didn't feel like cutting more out of cardstock, and it turned out great, I think. And then I'm going to glue these together, and when I glue them together, I'm only gluing the cone portion of the flower. I'm not gluing the petals together because I'm going to take my bone folder in later and curl those edges of the flowers, of the petals, and make it have some dimension. See there, you just put that other bottom piece isn't even really necessary. You could use either or. And on the cone flower there, you can pop the center out if you want to. But I leave it in there. And then I got some distress spritz. I got all the colors they had at Michael's. There's like, I don't know, 4 packs. I think I have like 12 or 16. I don't know. I think there was 5 actually. And I'm going in and I'm just using, make sure you shake it up really well. I think I kind of tried to show that, but it's so spit up you couldn't see it. Make sure there's no of the powder, the pigment at the very bottom, because that'll clog your nozzle. Just shake it really well. And then I sprayed and I used my heat gun to speed up the drying process. You could just set it aside and let it air dry. Now when I put this cone flower up on my card, it was too bright. It was not that dulled out kind of grayish purple that I used in those cone flowers. So I just took my Copic marker, I took a BB and went over it, and it toned down the purple so it would match my image that I colored. It did knock back some of the pigments in that spritz, but it still sparkles, just not as much. And it could potentially clog the nib of your Copic, so I would suggest doing it before I wrist it. If I have to, I'll just replace the nib. And then I'm fiddling here with position of where I want to put that on my card. And I'm allowing that leaf to hang off. I'm going to snip it down. These long shears from Tim Holtz are great for doing that. And then I'm just taking a little piece of that to make it appear that there's another leaf on the other side, and I glue that down. And then you got to attach this card front to a base, right? And then here's all the extras. So I took my Spectrum Noir clear gel glitter pen and I put that on there, especially on this bee's wings. And then I dotted the eyes on the kitty, the nose, and the little name tag, the little heart tag. And then there she is. Very cute, huh? I think it's so cute. I love her images. They're so cute and whimsical. I don't think you can go wrong. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.